Hi everyone, and welcome back to another video. Today, I'm here to talk about the top 5 commonly asked behavioral interview questions. Now, when many people think about behavioral interviews, they think they're going to be easy and there's no need to prepare. And that's where they're wrong. Luckily, you're not like most people because you're here to watch this video and learn. Remember, going into a behavioral interview will be easier if you have the right guidance and preparation for it. Especially for technical positions that have additional type of interviews like coding exams for software engineers to case interviews for consultants, many tend to spend their time focusing on these technical interviews as opposed to the behavioral, and that's where they're making their biggest mistake. You need to initially go through the behavioral interview in order to even make it to the technical round. So if you aren't taking the time to study and prepare for the behavioral, then there won't be the outcome that you are looking for. Also, in many instances, behavioral interviews tend to be the first round where you're introduced to the company and the recruiter and becoming more than just a name on a resume. So it's always better to get off on the right foot and do well on that behavioral interview. Through these fit interviews, as they're referred to in consulting, both you and them can gauge if you're the right candidate for that work environment and professional atmosphere. That's why, in my opinion, behavioral interviews are just as important, if not more important, than technical interviews. If you want me to make a video talking about my 5 tips on how to do well on case interviews and technical interviews, leave a comment below. So with all that said, let's get into the 5 main questions you'll likely be asked during a behavioral interview. The first question you'll likely be asked is, tell me about yourself or walk me through your resume. It's open-ended, it's broad, and it can be confusing. Remember, you don't want to give them your life story, so take the time to prepare your answer before going into that interview. Normally when I'm asked this question, I like to share my elevator pitch and explain why I pivoted into consulting and even go further and explain why that firm in particular. Answering this question through this structure is actually beneficial because it also may answer questions they may have as a follow-up. But remember, you want to keep your answers between 30 seconds and a minute max, and here's why. Whether you're meeting the interviewer in person or having a virtual interview, the recruiter or interviewer will likely be taking notes. And while they're doing that, they want the key takeaway from what you're saying. Also, interviewers are just like me and you, so be casual, or act casual at least, for a couple minutes during your interview. The second question you'll be asked is something that I talked about in my cover letter video, which I'll link down below in case you've missed. And that's the why this company and why should they choose you. When it comes to answering the first part of that question, be genuine. You don't want to come up with a cliche answer that they're expecting to hear, and you always want to have a great first impression with that company. It always helps to know the little things about the company that will help you stand out during your interview process. Is it the work that they're doing? Talk about a project, talk about their philanthropy, or anything that stands out to you in particular and that interests you. Saying that you want to work at Apple or Amazon because they're a big company and there's a lot of opportunities is a very generic answer, and it's not going to get you too far. Doing your research and learning more about the company shows them that you're well prepared for the interview and taking it seriously, which also ties into the second part of the question and why they should choose you. Everyone's going to have a different answer, so when it comes to answering this, make sure that you're honest and reflect as to why you think they are the right company for you. The third question you'll likely be asked regards to managing a team or a team conflict. Most of the questions you'll receive during your interview will be in the tell me about a time when format, because it leaves it more open-ended for you to develop your story. So you might be asked a question like, tell me about a time when you faced a challenge while working on a team. Another tip going into the behavioral interview is to have different answers for different questions. You want to come off as a more well-rounded applicant, so developing your stories in such a way gives them a better understanding of who you are and what you've done. In this question in particular, it really relates to how we all face challenges, especially when working on teams or individually. It gives them a better understanding, though, of how you react in a collaborative setting. So, for instance, as a consultant, you'll likely be working with other consultants and clients. So, being able to adapt and react accordingly is critical, especially when problems arise on projects. The fourth question you'll likely be asked will relate to projects and times that you failed or were unsuccessful at meeting a deadline or the project goal. Talk about what metrics you use to define success in a project. Don't worry if the example you use doesn't relate to that profession, because at the end of the day, it's about how you mold your answer to fit what they're looking for. No one's perfect, and we don't always hit our target goals. This question lets them see a couple things. 1. Are you willing to admit your imperfections and mistakes? 2. How did you learn and recover moving forward, both as a team and individually? And 3, what did you learn and how did you recover, especially moving forward? The fifth question that I'd like to share with you guys might sound a bit random, but myself and my friends have had this come up multiple times. And it's, tell me about what you like to do for fun. I know it's a question that you're likely not expecting or think that's professional, but what they want to do is get a better understanding of who you are, your interests and hobbies, and see if that's a fit for the culture at that firm. I remember being asked this question going into a final round interview at a consulting firm. I was preparing days and days for all the complicated questions I'd be expecting to answer, but when this one came up, it threw me off a little. So a bonus tip to you guys is to expect the unexpected sometimes. But sometimes they may just want to ask the simple questions because they want this behavioral interview to be more casual and conversational. So let's recap the 5 main questions you'll likely be asked during a behavioral interview. 1. Tell me about yourself or walk me through your resume. 2. Why this company and why you? 3. Tell me about a challenge you faced. The 4th question will be related more so to failure and how you overcame an obstacle. And 5, tell me what you like to do for fun. Please do keep in mind, however, that these questions won't be cookie cutter identical to what you may expect, but give you a general idea of what may come up during your behavioral interview. Depending on the firm, there may be multiple rounds of behavioral and technical interviews, so they may ask different or additional questions. With that being said, I hope you found this video helpful, and if you are interested in scheduling a one-on-one appointment to practice your case or behavioral interviews, visit my website ryanrafi.com to learn more. Thanks again, until next time.